So I'm Thea who's talking, and we're asking people that are participating in the fan Radio Ready team to sign in on the chat so that we know who's here, even though there is a record of email addresses. Hi, Chuck.
What's the day?
Hi, Craig. Oh, Mariana's on. Great. Oh, I'm so glad.
Yay.
I
Hi,
meant to
Julie.
try to call you.
there.
Hi.
Oh,
Hi. I wish we didn't have to keep meeting in Zoom, but we're still all learning how to do it. And we've had a busy week and really.
Ride.
Oh, hi, Charlie. Who's this?
This is Sally Ride. She likes
Sally Ride. Oh my gosh, that's great.
I love all the cats. I have one. He's in the background there. Where is he? Maui, wake up.
Oh no, he's usually on your shoulders if you wake him up.
He's usually on my lap. He likes Zoom meetings a lot, so that's where he usually is.
Okay, we're up to 12. We're up to 12 now, Lena. So maybe we should go ahead and start.
Yeah, I can go ahead and start. Well, I'm Lena, for anybody who doesn't know me, and I've been somewhat coordinating the fan Radio Ready program for a while with a great team of people, which most all of you are part of, which is amazing. We've been doing it for a year, a little over a year now. And, we continue to grow. And so that it might be a good time to do a little refresher and just, find out what people's questions are. If you're having problems with your radios or communicating or any obstacles, things like that, and just kind of go over that. The other thing I want to talk about, I don't know if you paid attention on the flyer that Thea sent out, and also I have an attachment on this month's exercise packet on the neighborhood communications response guide, which looks like this. It's a little different. This replaces our previous one. And there's quite a few changes. There's some changes in the outlay of this a little bit. Most of the information is the same. There's some little updated flow sheets for how it works, like citywide, down to the neighborhood level. And that's where we're at. We're at the neighborhood level. We're the eyes and ears that are gathering the information on the ground and then transmitting that. And so eventually what I'd really like to see, or we hope to see, is for a really good partnership with the Map Your Neighborhood groups as well, to be able to form some ground teams and to have a radio operator with ground teams to be able to do, when an incident happens, to be able to go out and do a little damage assessment form, be able to gather that information and then call it in. So the structure we have now, we have our 4 quarters and our 10 zones. So each of the quarters has anywhere from 2 to 3 zones in it. And, we could at some point, initially we had hoped to have like a radio leader for each of those zones. And then it was a lot of people to kind of put into positions. We still haven't gotten radios out to every single zone yet. So to get a leader for each zone has been a little bit of a recruitment push, and we're not quite there yet. But so we divided it into quarters. And with our GMRS radios, which have a little more power than the regular walkie-talkies, we're able to reach everybody in that quarter for the most part. We still have some dead areas. That's one of the things we found over the last year of doing this, that we do have a few dead zones that it's hard to communicate. Even just a few blocks away. There's a little spot like on Lincoln, like in 27th and Lincoln, somewhere around in there. Depending on where you're at, you can't even get hardly to the top of the reservoir. You kind of have to walk a few feet this way, that way, up a block, in order to be able to get a connection a signal. So that's one of the things that, it's just one of the things we have to be aware of and deal with if an event happens, to know that we do have some dead zone areas that it's hard to communicate to anywhere from there. And that's just the nature of having a big hill. And so we have our 4 quarters, and we have our quarter leaders, and we then have our net control. So I'm kind of just going through the positions that we have. Most of you are familiar with these. We have a ground crew, because every month, I think most of you maybe have been up to the reservoir when we do the exercise. And so every month we go up, we set up our canopy, the radios, we set up our ham radio station, which is our neighborhood hub. That's our neighborhood ham station. And then along with that, we have our FRS GMRS net control communication station there as well. And we have the ground crew, which typically it really takes about 4 people, just so people have an idea of what it takes to set all this up. It really takes 4 people to get things set up, and it takes us a good half hour, 40 minutes sometimes, depending on coming up on wintertime. We'll be setting up lights, so that's another layer that we set up. We set up the batteries, the antennas, all of that stuff. And this month, and this is my plea, if you know anybody who wants to come out help on the ground crew, this month 2 of our ground people helpers aren't going to be there. And so that's one of the reasons we also want to try to cross train. And so people learn different jobs and different positions, so that not everybody that practices all the time is going to necessarily be there in an emergency. So how do we jump in and do the next thing and be able to take over a position? So if we all get more familiar with that, that'll make it easier when the time comes. And so ground crews, that's actually a fun, I think it's fun. I think it's fun setting stuff up, tearing things down. It's a little physical, but it's a fun job, and it just goes a lot faster with at least 3 to 4 people. And then we have our scribes, which right now, Allegra here?
Yes.
Yes, Allegra's been our scribe at the net control. And how many of you, I don't know if you can raise your hands, how many of you have been scribing or writing down on either the roll call list, or like the names of people you hear when we do the exercises? People trying to do that? Oh, good job, Charlie. Yes. and I know that for me, it's helpful to practice that. Good job, everybody. It's really helpful to do that. It just gets used to knowing, like when people have call signs, especially, it's helpful, but knowing people's names and knowing where people are located. And the other reason, we are not into troubleshooting yet, but knowing where people are located is important, because especially the walkie-talkies, the FRS, they're line of sight. And so you want to be able to, if you know the direction where somebody is, you want to have, try not to have any big obstacles in between, and that includes your body. So sometimes just even turning your body, you'll be either shielding the signal, or you can increase the signal. So you don't want to block the transmission if you can help it. So that's why it's kind of helpful to know where people are, what direction they're in. So you'll know line of sight, what way to direct your antenna towards. So that's just a helpful little hint for that. And our quarter leaders, we've got Saul's not here. Yeah, we have openings. We really do have openings for all the quarter leader positions. Chuck's been doing this for a while. Craig's a great backup. Charlie's doing a great job jumping in as the rover, and he fills in lots of positions. And Thea's been real solid in the southwest quarter there. But I think she's at a point where she's wanting to pass that on. So, and we have a lot of radio operators in the Southwest. And I want to try to find a way to make it so it's doesn't feel intimidating or that difficult, to make it easy for people to do. We have a script, and I know if you see in your exercise packet, the quarter leaders get a script to use. And so hopefully that helps. You don't have to like make it up. The same for net control. We have scripts for that. So you don't have to, you've got some guidelines. You're not having to just push the mic and just go, well, what do I say now? It's all written down. So for the most part, so that can be hopefully a little less intimidating. And this month we're going to actually be practicing some changes. Allegra is going to be taking over the ham net, which happens after the afterwards, and Craig's going to be doing the net control for the FRS GMRS.
Wonderful.
And he's also on the ground crew, so that's going to be really, really busy for him. So another plea for somebody to come up and help us get things set up. And so, and then Charlie is going to be doing our net control for the exercise that's happening on October 23rd. And that's going to be, that can be a really fun event or a learning event. It's a practice. It's the first time we've done that, or it's been done. I don't know everything about that. Andy Davis is here and he knows all about it, which is helpful. But one of the things we want to do is try to get teams together to be able to have a few ground teams to be able to go out. The exercise will be from 10 to 12 on the 23rd. And the way it works is we'll have teams, and there'll be yard signs that'll go out. And so the teams will go out, and anytime we're doing any kind of groundwork in an emergency, actually, no matter what we're doing in emergency, we want to work in pairs of at least pairs of 2. It's really important to work in pairs of 2. The other thing that's important is that we know where people are. And so the net control communications, we want to kind of do a sign in, sign out, so we know where people are and where they're assigned. And so then you'll find your yard signs that'll have a picture on it, and then you'll write that down and then call it in to your quarter leader if we have one. If we don't have enough people for that, you'll be calling it in to Charlie as net control. So if we have quarter leaders, if we can get some quarter leaders there, that's great. That might not always happen in an emergency. We might not always have that. So it may be that you have to do a direct call into our on channel 6. Channel 6 is our main channel. And then call in the reports. And then what Charlie's going to do with that is he's also a ham operator. And, you know, ideally we'll have 2 people working together as backup and a scribe there as well. It's really important when you're working on net control, you're doing a lot of different things and moving parts. It's really super helpful to have somebody else there taking the notes and documenting. That's really a key thing. And if we don't write it down, it didn't happen. And one of the keys to an exercise like this is practice getting it right. You know, so we want to be, it's the ABCs. We want to be accurate, we want to be brief, and we want to be, what is it? Accurate, brief, and concise, or clear. Accurate, brief, and clear. So we don't want to use a lot of words. We want to say what we mean. And then when we report that, on the radio, and we want to keep in mind somebody's happened to write that down and get it exactly right. Because the rule is for emergency communication is to write down the message exactly. So you don't want to speak more than, 5 words at a time, and then stop and then repeat it back. If it's wrong, make the correction until it's right. So here's an example. Where did that go?
Okay, thought it might. It's just a sample that was done.
Okay, this is just this is a sample of a general message. And that's the thing I'm thinking we'll have some forms printed up ahead of time. And so what it might be a good idea is, I'm not sure, I'm really sad I'm not going to be here for this exercise. I'm like kind of crushed a little bit. I'll be in Colorado doing something fun, but I won't be here. But I'll be thinking about you guys. So it may be best, like, we have a meeting spot. And a lot of times that's what we'd want to do is like meet, get our assignments, and then go back out. And that way we can sign in and sign out and that type of thing too. Because in a real emergency, we may be checking out radios, like for people that are, may have ground teams, and they would come to the incident command up at the reservoir, or it may be somewhere else, depending on the event and disaster or whatever's happening. But you always just want to turn on to channel 6 and listen, especially the top of every hour during an actual emergency. Turn it on, listen to your local stations as well. And then that'll give you better direction if we're activating, and we can give the locations of where we're going, that type of thing. Yeah, so that was the sample. I don't know if you saw that. But yeah, just make very clear and concise. So maybe we'll have like some of that paperwork ready to go. Do we have a copy of the damage assessment form? I was going to go to, I know I'm not doing the radio stuff yet. I kind of jumped ahead to this other thing.
We weren't clear if that was going to be used for the 23rd, so we didn't get one ready for that. It sounded like the 213 was the only one going to be used.
Well, I think
it's confusing.
Allegra's been using a 214 activity log during our net controls, and there's another, there's several samples of, there's another communication log. I really encourage everybody, if you can, to print off the new resource guide or response guide and just, toss out your old one pretty much. There is some fan specific stuff in the old one though, possibly.
So the 213 is the message form.
The 213 is the message one, but we also will be using the communication logs to track those 213s, to track those messages, because they have to be numbered and accounted for as they come into the radio.
I'm not sure if there was a communication log sample in the.
It's in the resource guide.
It's in the back, yeah.
It's in the back in the appendix. It's called
Communications log.
Communication log.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing that one. And the damage assessment is really pretty simple. I mean, it gives you can't see this well. It gives you if you put it on speaker mode, you might get a bigger shot. It gives you different scenarios of what it could be. But for this exercise, you're probably just going to use the 213 and write down what you see. And that's also what you would use if we were to have runners.
It's our first one. So the main goal, there's two main goals. One is whatever your quarter comes out of your quarter, a message, verbiage is going to be the same that's received at the EOC, that is not changed from you to there. So that's one goal, is to make sure that nothing is changed on a 213 on a message. The other goal is however many messages from all the districts sent in, the EOC does a check and balance and they receive the same number. So that's the two main goals. You're doing a great job, Lena, on all this. A damage assessment form, it'd be great. We, in the CERT program, we teach people that when you go to, like you were talking about, Lena, going to a rally point, and as you travel to the rally point in a real emergency, whether some kind of a scratch paper or whatever, you're writing down what you observe as you go to your rally point. And then you give that over to your team leader so it can be sent back. Whether it's on a piece of paper or a damage assessment form, this time it doesn't matter, but basically we want you to, it's kind of looking like you go to a psychiatric office and they show you ink blog and you say, what do you see in this ink blog? So there's going to be pictures, there's going to be pictures in a yard sign, and you're supposed to look at that and
Say what
write down what you see. That's all we want. And just like the guide, response guide says, your 213 message should be accurate, brief, and concise. That's it.
So I have a
Thank
question.
you.
I have a question, Andy. So are we wanting, we're going to want to collect those. Is that correct?
Yes.
So the people that write
in a
down-
real, yeah. I'm sorry.
So when people are out there, they're writing down what they see. Ideally, we want them to call that in on the radio, but then we would also like them, and then the people at Net Control are going to be writing that down and then passing that on to our Southeast District 2
Right.
ham
Who
operator.
Yeah, whoever is, if you only have like one quarter that's going to be operating, and you have a quarter captain or quarter net control for your GMRS or FRS radios or whatever, and they receive the damage reports or the scratch paper, then that person is to glean from what was written down from the sweep through the neighborhood, and take from that the most important things, the accurate and brief and concise it down for a radio message, and then send that on to Charlie or whoever's taken all the traffic from the different quarters. But Charlie is I guess net control for family area
He'll be our net
neighborhood.
control.
And then Charlie was, yeah. And then Charlie in turn sends that on to Gary Hale. And that's how it would go. So
This is the only form the FRS sweeps need, a blank piece of paper.
yeah,
The best form in the world. And that's how it's going to go to, till it reaches Charlie. And then at that point, we'll try to put it into a 213 and make it easier to transmit.
right.
So I got
For this exercise, Thea, you're right. Just use the scratch paper. And then you can build on teaching how to do the damage assessment form.
Okay.
That could be a follow-on thing. But yeah, for this time,
We
yeah.
won't worry about that one. So we'll just do the message and get it in, and then, but we will want to collect.
Yeah.
It seems like we would want to collect the originals just to see how far off we are when we get to the end.
Right. If there is a real emergency, all of these, all the paperwork will go to EOC because what they do is that's how the city gets reimbursed from FEMA for all the expenses that they incur through an emergency, whether it's the holiday fire or whatever. That's how they get reimbursed from FEMA. So that's why they want to collect everything. But our goal for being the very first one is it's very important that the EOC receives word for word what comes out of your neighborhood, and that a ham operator doesn't say, well, that's not grammatically correct. It needs to sound like this. No, we don't want to do that. Just do it as it was sent. And
So-
and that's the thing.
I can tell
Question.
you from experience how ridiculously hard that is.
It is.
That's why you practice. Question.
That's why we practice. Yeah, for absolutely. Yeah, it definitely takes practice, and it gets easier. I know. I was just noticing when I put together the net records at the end of every month, and Allegra scribes them all, and I go through and I read them and do the attendance and all of that stuff, and just over the last, like, you know, how much better they get with practice is just amazing. It's like, it's really an awesome thing. You know, you think of being a scribe as maybe not, I don't know. It's just such an important job. It's like the right hand person to have there. So,
Question.
yes.
Yeah. So, would it be recommended to, so these folks who are wandering around the neighborhood, maybe kind of in a high adrenaline situation, but is it recommended to actually have them write down first and then transmit? And that way we've already got the record and, written down. And then, whoever receives that
Yeah.
can transcribe it.
It's helpful to write it down before you transmit it, I think. And it's good to take a breath. And that's the other thing I wanted to mention too, is that there's also going to be a safety meeting that's going to happen before the 23rd. I think that's is it the 19th or the 6th?
19th is what I read.
Okay, the 19th. So you just, want to go to the safety meeting, and that kind of covers, like, there's all the basic things, like making sure you're working with a pair, and adrenaline can run really high, and different people respond differently when an actual emergency. Some people, and which is why training helps, is because sometimes you can just go into training mode and, function mode. Some people just freak out, and the brain's like, none of the blood goes up there anymore, and you push the talk button, and it's like, I'm over here. This is me, I'm over here. So we get used to practicing that. But the other thing that's really important to do at the beginning of any exercise is to ground yourself. And I just went to, I don't know if any of you went to there was a fireside chat on like resiliency, like for responders and stuff, that was really good. And just taking that breath initially to ground yourself and be calm and be centered. And the other thing too is you want to take care of your own family and safety first. You always take care of, like, your home, your family, your pets. You got to make your stuff safe before you run off and go help other people, because that's just kind of a rule of thumb, that you want to make sure you do that in a real situation, that you've got your home secured, or as best as possible. It's always hard to know what the scenario is going to be exactly, but so there's always has to be that flexibility. But yeah, and supporting each other, and just even before you get on the radio, it's helpful sometimes to just take, just do that 4 count in, hold for a count of 4, 4 to 6 count out, do a couple of breaths, and just get your nervous system calm back down. And doing that periodically. The other thing too, in an emergency, making sure that when you need to take a break. Make sure you have water with you, have stuff for your own self-care, have water, have a snack, have proper clothing for the weather, those type of things, extra batteries. Most of that should be in a kit, kind of ready to go. I have a couple of different ones. Like, this is This is a couple of FRS radios, my manual, the batteries, the whole thing. Go ahead, Andy.
Yeah, this is an exercise. We want to be, I guess, serious about trying to do the best we can. But also, it's important that everybody has fun, have a good time. You know, have fun out there, have a good time. I don't know what the weather may be like on the 23rd.
Hey, it's Oregon.
But yeah, I know.
We're in Oregon.
Yeah, so dress appropriately. It'd be good if you got something that's a high visibility type of outerwear. If you have like teams of 3 that are going to sweep, you know, 2 as a partner and 1 like a leader or team leader with a radio, that can also act as a safety to watch out for stray dogs and cats and things like that, so that they don't get bit. But if people may come up, if you're wearing a CERT vest or a hat or whatever, and neighbors come up and say they want to know what's going on, just say we're having a communication exercise. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, just have fun, enjoy yourself.
So, and I think since I'm not going to be here, we probably want to put some teams together, let Thea know. I have a radio on somewhere. You shouldn't be on. Come on. Imagine that I have a radio on. I've got like 6 of them here. So if you let Thea know and let Charlie know, and so they can know where to, get yard signs and get a hold of Andy so we have enough fun stuff for the exercise would be really great. Are there any other questions on the exercise at this point? And say talk to your neighbors, go ahead, Charlie.
This is a very simple, maybe but slightly technical. On all of these forms that you're looking at, it's got a to and a from. And as you go up the chain, do those change or do they always stay the same? So if the initial person sending it says from the quarter leader and it's going to EOC, when it gets to me, do I change that or is that the same, use the same to and from and just pass it on to Gary?
No, it's going to be, say from a neighborhood in whatever quarter that you're at. So as I'll just use, Lena's not going to be here, but we'll say from Lena, CERT in neighborhood quarter number 1 to the EOC.
Yep.
It could just be like radio, like Southwest quarter radio operator Eric.
But the question is, does it change when it goes through the relay? Do those things change? Do we add anything?
No,
about?
no. From the quarter neighborhood, it should go from the quarter neighborhood, and who's going to is the EOC. Even though it's going to pass through you, Gary.
Yeah.
It's going to pass Charlie. It's going to pass through you, and it's going to pass through Gary. But it's actually going to the EOC. That's the.
So we don't change that at all.
No, don't change anything. Yeah.
So when it comes in, but then there should be like some kind of an action follow-up that message like 213 message number 1 was transmitted to Southeast District 2 net control. I mean, that's going to be documented somewhere.
There's a whole history to the 213s, and basically because they were not designed to be sent by radio, the people that are using them for radio messages have all kind of adopted them and adapted in their own way, the different agencies. And like there isn't a place here for the message number. Quite a few agencies want to have your message number on there. And then down below, there is a reply form. Originally, these were made to be carbon copies in 3 and only used for when the radios were not available to be sent by runner. So, and then there's different types of 213s. There's a RR, which is a request for resource that we're not doing, but that's one that's in our files as a runner only. And So if I spent like a day researching this and watching all these videos and reading all this stuff, and it's actually kind of complicated how each agency is using these, because we don't really have one specifically adapted for us, using the one out of the manual, which is not actually in the resource guide. The form was not added to it, but the links are there to get to it and down stores it. But this is one that's been, when the FRS, person in the field sends it, they're not going to be putting it in this way. They technically should state, however, that this is an exercise message when they start out any communication during a drill. And that's why this starts with one and ends with one. But the person taking the message is the one that actually condenses it and takes out all the unnecessary words. And then there's a whole protocol for sending them over the radio as well, and how to say period at the end, or dot for or at sign. So it can get as complicated as you like, and it's up to us or each team to determine how they're going to do it. And if it's for Eugene, then the Eugene-EmComm will need to adapt and use a specific form if they want it that way.
Well, what I see is like, this is our first time and it's a practice. I would suggest, as if I were to be at net control, I would suggest using the communication log and numbering those 213s, and be able to just do a running log of when it came in, who drum, and then log it again when it goes out and who to. But
Yeah,
with an associated number, and it wouldn't be that difficult when the person calls in the 213, and just do them in the order they come in, and let them know that you're message number 1, and they can write down on their sheet of paper or whatever that they're message number 1. Andy, does that make sense? Go ahead.
Yes, that makes sense for this one. The pictures are going to have numbers on them. The city put numbers on them, and I was told they put the numbers there because of the EOC net control is new, and I'm not sure. I guess they want the number that is on the picture to be somehow transmitted, so that the EOC net control can see the message and then look at it. I guess pictures that he has.
They can match the message with the
Yeah,
pictures.
and I think that's what so I think, so they did put numbers on the pictures,
Okay.
but we're hoping that this exercise will be an annual event, be on a Saturday following the week of the Great Oregon ShakeOut. And so for maybe Charlie, next year, this year we're just sending everything up to the EOC, but maybe next year we could have the EOC send replies back down to the neighborhood for a particular message that was sent. Say somewhere in quad 1 was requesting bottled water for something, and so was sent to the EOC. The EOC could send a message back to that person that was on the message and saying bottled water or blankets will be on the way and will be delivered or whatever. So we want to, each year we want to add a little bit more to the exercise.
I just think it's exciting that this is finally happening. It's like we've been working on this for a year, and we've had in the last 3 months, Gary, the Southeast District 2, has been doing net control, and so we've added that into our radio protocol. And I know a lot of the people on FRS and GMRS maybe aren't hearing the ham nets unless you're listening on Zoom, which we won't be having this month. But that's really cool. Like we're getting those connections. We're getting further up the chain as we move along, and so it's becoming more functional and more practical. And so I just think that's kind of an exciting thing. So I think what I'd like to do is, let me see if I can share my screen again. If I can make that happen. So one of the things, okay, so one of the links in your exercise packet goes to the Eugene-EmComm.org. This has a ton of information in it.
Thank you,
it also,
Mandy.
thank you. Yes, thank you for putting this together. And it's also, if we go to links, it's also going to have a place where we can, at some point, we can put in the friendly area neighborhood radio ready in here as well. And, you know, our specific information on the calendar as well, like Northeast Eugene Hams has a calendar on there. They're pretty active. I'd like to see the Southeast neighbors have a page on here because they're very active and they're just south of us. So that would be a really cool thing. There's a lot of good information on here. And there's the 213 is on here. If people are interested in looking at that, that's here as well. And where is the link to? Andy, can you tell me where the link is to the resource guide?
It's on the first page.
It's on the first page,
So,
the home page?
I think so.
Oh, right here in the very first sentence.
Very first sentence.
All right. So yeah, I encourage you to take a look at this. And I did update on our exercise packet. I updated the reference pages because those have changed. The page for, I think it was for, there's a page. Oh, these aren't live on, oh, here they are. They're live. There's a lot of good information on here for radios, troubleshooting, little checklist for that, which are always good to look at. So I've updated that page, which is now page 31. Field safety tips. There's also the tactical information and flow sheets. There's just a wealth of information in here. The phonetics are good to learn. It's really helpful to know the phonetic alphabet because, and when you're giving addresses, saying, instead of saying 23rd, say 23 Avenue, or East 23 Avenue can be helpful rather than 23rd, or sometimes it's harder to hear different words. So there's several things on here that are really helpful. And now I can't find how to get back out of here.
Excuse me, Lena. Julie had a really good question. I think I may
Oh.
need to correct something I sent out.
Please.
The safety meeting for this EmComm drill is on the 19th, but I had that as Thursday, and she's noted that it's
Tuesday.
it's Tuesday. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm correcting that in that flyer that went out. Thank you for catching that, Julie.
But yeah, I mean, it looks like it's a little longer than the other one, but there's a lot of intentionally blank pages. So, but there's good information in here on talking on the radio. Communication tips are always good to go through, and transmitting, and things to say. That's always a good thing to practice too. I spend a lot of time looking at that, the concise words and using concise words, and what they mean. So things like copy means I hear you clearly, affirmative, correct, correction, doubled. Out, when you say out or clear, you don't want to use that unless you're turning your radio off. Usually if you say you're out, that means you're gone. If you want to reply, you can say over. And then that means you're waiting for a reply. If you don't understand something, say again or repeat. Those are helpful. So you can say if you're not going to be clearing or out, you can say standing by. That's a useful one to use. So there's a lot of different words, and there's our little alphabet, Alpha Bravo Charlie. Those are good to learn. So, and you can print those off as a little cheat sheet. And I think we have that. We do have a little cheat sheet that we've printed off. There's a lot of intentionally left blank ones. And then all the neighborhoods have a assigned channel. Ours is 6, which is the one we've been using. And then we have our alternate channel. If that channel is busy, or if we have somebody on there that's just being kind of meddlesome, that can happen. And rather than announcing the channel on the air so the meddlesome person can follow us, we'll say to change to the alternate channel. I know there's a little bit of confusion last time when we did that. And our alternate channel is 20. And so that's just something good to have your tactical channels on hand somewhere so that you know what they are. The same for your zone. Every zone has an assigned channel. And then the alternate channel is up 1. Just move it up 1 and you'll be directed if you need to do that.
Lena, do you want to try to get onto the actual radios for a bit here? Or we could.
That was the next thing. We're going to the radios. So,
we could also start answering a few questions that came up here too. Maybe take a break.
We need
what time does the ground crew show up at the reservoir?
Normally the ground crew shows up at 5:15. So that gives us 45 minutes, and that's a push. That's kind of a push. And then we show up at, and sometimes people will go back home and do the radio exercise and then come back to help tear down. And so tear down's like at 7 after the net ends, and set up. Yeah, 5:15. If we have 4 people, we can do it pretty good in that length of time. With winter coming up, if it's raining, we have to put up sidewalls and, and lights. So that's going to take a little bit longer. I'm asking for this month for 5:10. I'll have everything up there by 5:10, maybe even a little bit earlier. So we have to unload it and set it up.
An experienced ground crew person will not be available, so that, and it might be raining, so that's why a little extra time is needed.
Well, yeah. Well,
Yeah.
there'll be 3 of us there, but when you're preparing to do net control, it's hard to make that transition from put stuff up to like if you ever noticed me on the Zoom, I'm usually reasonably frazzled by the time I sit down and take a breath and a swig of water and turn it on the radio.
One of the reasons we're not doing a Zoom this time is I hope to be liberated from that, to be able to go up to the reservoir and possibly help out, or even rove as a quarter leader, or just get around, be more mobile. I do have this GMRS micro mobile that's supposed to be mobile, but I have not used it as a mobile yet. So I'm looking forward to not being pinned down to a Zoom, and apologize if anybody's going to miss it.
Is that the Midland standard issue?
We have, so yeah, I'm gonna, in fact, let me go through, let's see. We have, and that's why I had the other radio, or the other camera set up, because I had all this stuff set up here. See if I can just move. Lights, camera, action. So this here is the micro mobile. It is tiny. It's the little guy. It's 5 watts. And it has,
Excuse me, do you want to stop screen sharing?
oh, yes. Make this
Okay.
go away. That'll make it much easier.
All
There.
I'm seeing is check
The
cat.
little teeny tiny things. So here's the little teeny tiny radio with a mic. And then it's got an antenna that's about, what is it, 20 feet? I'm not sure, but you want to you can put this on a roof of a car. It's intended to go like on the roof of your car. It's a little magnetic mount. If you're not using it on the roof of your car, these little teeny pizza pans make a nice ground plane, and then you can set this out. You want it outside. You really want this outside and as high as possible. That's what makes this little guy a lot more powerful than a GMRS one of these, because the limit is the antenna on this. And so it makes a big difference. And so the issued kit for a quarter liter is the micro mobile, the antenna, and then everything is all set up with Anderson power poles. We've got a battery that's kind of heavy, and that one comes with, and also a charger, battery charger. And then we also have this other unit here. So right now I have this set up with a power supply and AC DC adapter, which has a cigarette outlet here. So that plugs into the wall. And so it's really pretty easy to do. The only caveat is you have to have a GMRS license, which hopefully, I don't think it's $35 yet. It's supposed to go down to $35. It's currently $70 for 10 years. And I believe it's renewable.
Yes, so are they going to give me 20 years because I already paid 70?
I think you just can renew. I think you might not have to pay to renew.
Oh,
I'm not
nice.
sure if you don't let it lapse. So there's always a reason not to let your licenses lapse. There's always good reasons for that. But you don't have to take a test. There's no testing. So there's this option, and this can be portable. It can be mounted in your car if you want, and you can use it that way. Keep it in a little shoebox, whatever. And that works pretty good. And then the other one, we also have like options too for like a quarter liter, because we really want to have 2 quarter liters for each quarter. And so there's also the option of having a handheld GMRS, which is almost identical to the FRS walkie-talkie. They're both Midlands. This is an GXT 1000, and it has some nice features on it. It pretty much operates the same way, the same formats to set it up, but it does have a lot more features. I was studying them today, and you actually can do a dual monitoring. So if you wanted to set up your walkie-talkie, your GMRS walkie-talkie, you can have it on your primary channel, which is channel 6, or if you wanted to put it on your alternate channel for your group, which might be 4, 16, or whatever it is, and it will monitor both stations. You'll have your primary one that when you hit your push to talk, it activates your primary station channel that you're operating on, but it'll receive on both of them. So if there's something happening on, like say you're on your alternate channel, but you want to listen to the quarter liter or what happens at the channel 6 level, you can do that. It might get too confusing, but
Too confusing for me.
it's too confusing to me. So you know what I do because at the net control, I'm often listening to several different things at one time.
Radios.
I have lots of radios up there. And so these come in a pair. And so what I do with a pair is I put one on one channel and I put the other on the other channel. And
There you go.
then I've got them both and I can go back and forth between the two.
Nice tip.
So
You need two holsters on your harness though.
oh yeah, I mean I have I do need like a cool little radio vest or something, because I know there's been times where I've had like an FRS in one ear and another channel, another radio and another yeah, I've had a few, and then somebody will be talking to me and all of a sudden I'm just like deer in headlights, and because I'm listening somewhere and I like, well, where'd you go? And it's like, oh, I'm listening in this ear at the moment. So but,
Technically, the net control should have somebody listening to an AM radio for emergency announcements as
and
well.
we have an AM radio. We have an AM FM radio, transistor radio up at the net control.
Yeah.
We have one available. We've tried to think of everything up there.
And the FRS, GMRS have, well, the hams have FM, excuse me, the ham
Yeah,
handy talkies.
we usually the ham stations, we have our ham stations dual band, and we keep one on the frequency for the simplex for the Southeast District 2, and then the other one we keep on the one for the neighborhood, our neighborhood simplex. Yeah.
So I've got a question about your like physical infrastructure. Is the structure that you've got basically one of those pop-up Saturday market, fold out?
It is. Yep.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, we use those we used to when we hosted things down at Common Ground Community Garden or Common Ground Garden.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just pull them out and anchor them down.
It's actually really nice. We were using mine for a while, and then after we got the grant, it's a really nice, it's an ABC canopy. It's very sturdy and it's pretty wind resistant. We have 4 10-pound weights and I bring my extra 4 5-pound weights, and a lot of times we bungee cord it to the fence up on the reservoir. And we have sidewalls as well, which is really helpful. It keeps our equipment dry, keeps us dry. And it also helps when we put the light up in there, the white sidewalls help to bring the light.
Yeah. Also gives that nice homey feeling, right?
It is. It's really nice. And I like it to be homey. And sometimes I bring like a rollout rug as well, because I don't want to be on the wet floor.
Don't forget Mr. Buddy.
And Mr. Buddy, my propane heater. We
Yeah.
have that on a cold night.
It's
Yeah.
quite a setup. In our Zooms that we have done, we've recorded the entire nets and shown the operations and some of the setup, and those Zooms are available if you're interested.
Yeah, I'd love
they
to
can be
see that.
shared.
One of the concerns that I've got is wind, because I've kind of investigated the code on this, and for like a 10 by 10 fold out pop up, you need a ridiculous amount of weight to be within code.
Right.
And I don't think 10 pounds
No,
on a corner is sufficient.
it's not. We and that's why we usually 2 legs. We try to go up against where there's a windbreak if we can, up along the fence, and then we bungee cord 2 legs to the fence.
Okay.
And then we put the weights on. We also have additional sandbag weights that we can use as well.
Yep. Okay, great. That'll do it.
Yeah, we've had a few gusts that we're like, woo. Yeah, so we try to do the best we can with that, and it's so far it's so good.
Yeah, I learned my lesson many years ago. You can ask me about it over a beer sometime.
Yeah, I know. I woke up one morning and mine in the backyard was gone, and I was thinking,
Oh.
who the heck would steal my canopy out of my backyard? And it happened to be next door, upside down, and it was up in a tree.
Yep.
The neighbor-
Mine ended up in the park across the street.
Well, they will do that. So any questions on the radio operations? On the FRS. We can go through the FRS ones. They're pretty, if you guys have your radios. The FRS and GMRS are pretty similar. Go ahead, Thea.
I was just going to say, I don't know if it's really clear that during our normal monthly exercises, most of us are warm and dry at home. And we can go out on a patio if need be, or near a window to get better reception. But we don't go up to the reservoir. So I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, I mean, but it is like if you're having, just in doing the troubleshooting, if you're having a hard time receiving or transmitting, I know there's somebody that has to walk a couple blocks up to get reception, and she's close. And and the other thing that you want to do is you want to make sure that you want to hold your antenna upright. You don't want it out horizontal. You need it upright, and sometimes just getting higher. I think, Chuck, weren't you up in your attic or something at one point in time?
Yeah, I contemplated going into the upstairs bedroom, and I did.
Yeah,
That did get me up and in reach.
it makes
So,
it makes a difference, and that's
yep.
yeah, that's why the GMRS have a little more power. I mean, just living in this area and neighborhood, I mean, I have a GMRS handheld. I actually ran the net with that little handheld for like 6-7 months. Them up at the reservoir, it was good enough to reach most places from there because I was high enough. That was the real key. So you want to keep it upright. You want to push to talk. You want to push that down and hold it for a second or two. And then sometimes saying, this is, and keep that down, say, this is, and say who you are. And that will make sure we hear the whole transmission. You don't want to let go until you're done talking, because it clips the beginning and the end if you don't give it that little bit of a pause. You want to be able to talk. You don't talk straight into it, because that makes blowy wind noises and can create some static. So you want to hold it about an inch away, thumb's distance, about couple inches away, and kind of talk across the mic. You don't want to yell, but you want to speak, enunciate, kind of speak clearly and slowly, and even just dropping an octave. When we get excited, so you don't want to do that. You just want to keep it, take your nice deep breath. This is WRHT 577. Do you copy? Or a simple one is radio check. When we do radio checks, that's all you have to say is radio check. And then if somebody can hear you, they'll come back and tell you they can hear you and how your signal is. So that's a key one. Again, if you're not hearing things, just move your body around, try to get to line of sight, get up a little higher. There's so many times when we were doing the testing that I just stood up on a curb. And even with my ham radio, sometimes if I'm on a simplex, which is line of sight, I would end up going in my backyard and I stand on a bench and, put it up. Yes, Mariana.
So I was at the reservoir once with instructions, and I have no written instructions about how to use this. I don't know what button to push. I don't know anything. So can you advise me where to get that information?
Do you have the manual?
I do not.
You
Well,
do not have the manual.
well, I might have a little manual.
Yeah, there should be a little, it's a little tiny manual that looks like this that should have been in the bag with your radio.
I'll look for it. Okay.
So another suggestion,
You can go online too.
right? Find it online because you can get them as a PDF. And then if you're like me, I need a magnifying glass to get
It's-
to read those little
Exactly.
guys, and I can put it on the screen.
Really tiny. It's really tiny. And I was going through this and I actually found, and maybe Allegra, I might, on Sunday, I'm gonna bring these to you and have you scan these in, and then I can get them put out. There's on like one of the, it is so tiny. It's like I'm having to I had to print it and blow it up on my printer to be able to see it. It's on like page 6 or 8. I can't tell the difference. It's page 8 of the little Midland for the T71.
But if it's online, I can print it from online and
Right. It's a lot easier that way,
You
just to print
could.
it. You can print each page, you can
print the
make
whole
a
thing. But what I'm
screenshot.
gonna say is it's got this like really cool reference chart. And so what this does is it shows you where on the function keys things are, which is easy to forget if you're wanting to change things. So with this, everything's done on the menu key. So there's a menu button, you push it, and it tells you right on the little chart here, the little cheat sheet, it'll say you push it one time and then that gives you your channels. You do the up down buttons for the channels. And then if you don't push it again,
Weird.
it'll reset.
I can print that cheat sheet. Is that online?
Yeah,
Well,
it's all in the manual.
On the menu.
No, without having to wait for the manual.
It's in the
Yeah, you
manual.
can find it.
It's in the manual, but it's super tiny. I mean, maybe it'll be bigger if you print it in a PDF, but I think it'll still be small. But I've like blown these up. I mean, they're just like,
But I should be able to blow it. That's what I'm saying. If it's online, I should be
Yeah.
able to enlarge it.
but there's, yes, you can, but there's a
Yeah.
whole lot of other words. I've already just like edited it down and cut it out towards just the thing, but
So would you
Oh,
give me
so
the
you
model
have-
number again?
Wait a minute, excuse me.
TV
we-
771.
Please, let me ask Lena a question. So Lena, you're bringing me on Sunday? Are you bringing me that paper you want me to scan? And
I want you to scan these papers. This one is because it's not all the extraneous other stuff on the page.
okay,
I blew it up big enough where I could see it without glasses.
okay, so you're going to bring me specific pages, not the manual to scan.
Not
just
the manual.
specific-
There's one for the GMRS, which is really complicated, but if you follow the little lines, it can take you there. And then there's also I blew up it's the display and the little arrow that says what everything is.
And that's for the FRS and another
This
one
one's for the FRS and then the cheat sheets for the FRS. Yeah.
I've done
Okay.
that for all the radios I have. I have it all blown up and printed out and stuck in my go bag, and it's really handy to refer to that way.
Yeah. So that might help a little bit too, Mariana, but I was-
Yeah, because I'm not going to even be able to participate with you tonight if you're going to be using radios.
oh
I
no,
will-
not tonight. We're not going to do that
Alright.
tonight,
Hey,
but
on Sunday, you need to just be on channel 6. You
Well-
can get on channels, and that's all you really need.
Well, except that, okay, so here's what my heart's desire is on Sunday night to not be at the reservoir, to be somewhere else with somebody with my device in hand,
so you can,
guided through the process so that I can be out,
Yeah.
at large and being able to participate in that way. But I would need to have someone hold my hand in that process. So that's my heart's desire. I don't know if that's possible, especially since you're you know, shorthanded for crew and stuff. But
Yeah.
that's my heart's desire, and I don't know how to get that.
Okay.
That's my request.
So what if,
Isn't there somebody who lives, she lives near me, just at the bottom of Chambers Hill, just on the other side, you know.
And I can, you know, I have a car, I can go somewhere else, you know, I mean, I don't have to necessarily be in my neighborhood to do this, but for this practice.
So,
But
Mariana, would it be helpful if, I wouldn't be able to do it during the net, but I would be
Or-
happy to go through it with you. Like if you just want to come over to my house and.
sure,
play
I
with-
would be happy, I would love that.
Would that be good?
Yeah.
Okay. Because
I
normally,
would volunteer, but I don't use that type of radio, so I would have to refer to the manual myself.
And also, yeah.
yeah, that's really good. The main ones is, it's all the menu button. It's just.
Yeah, It
one-
looks to me like, even though I thought I was charging this, I push the menu button and nothing happens. So I'm assuming,
Oh, is it turned
Yeah.
on? So.
I don't know how to turn it on. Oh, I see, it's this little knob here.
Is this-
Let's,
There you
there we go. Okay, and it's already set up to channel.
It's already set up to 6. And
Yeah.
so the button on top is your power and it's also your volume. So
Okay,
it's power and volume and it's on 6. And then you push the menu button once and you can change the channels with the up or down. You push it twice. And that is for the privacy tones, which you don't want. So that one should be on off. The next one.
wait, so hold on, I don't,
Okay, so you push the menu button twice,
it says off, okay,
and that's what you want. You want your privacy channels off.
Everything off.
okay.
And then if you push it 3 times, it says PR to the
Yes.
right, and then up above the 6, it should either have an H or an L.
H,
Okay, that means it's on high power.
okay,
So if you want to change your power, you push that
wouldn't.
menu button 1, 2, 3, you're on power. You can push either up or down arrow.
why would I want to change it to anything other than high power?
Okay,
Okay.
that is an excellent question. Perfect question. Because power settings are one of the things we want to be able to change. So with the power setting on high, it's going to be using, when you transmit, it's going to be using up your battery life a lot faster. So you want to have, oh geez, sorry, my security alarms, there's probably possums running in my backyard. So you want it on low power, like if you're working like on a field team and you're just talking very close in to people close to you in your zone, you want it on a lower power because you don't need a high power. But if you're talking to the reservoir or you're having a hard time transmitting and you need to get your signal farther, you'll want it on high.
Okay,
But you might not want to leave it there. If low is good enough, use low. But if you need further range, go high. And what will happen if you have it on high, when the battery starts to get depleted, it'll automatically damp it down to low. And you'll find that you start not being able to hear, or people aren't able to hear you. And then that's why you want your extra batteries backed up. The other thing, when you're charging your FRS or GMRS handholds, you don't want them turned on when they're in the charger, and you don't want to just leave them in the charger. And these are really nice because when they're done, they say full. The old ones don't do that. So when you have them on the charger, when they're done, they say full, pull them off the charger.
what, do you mean that the battery has 3 bars on it? I don't see a full, and this has been on, might have been sitting in the charger since I was at the reservoir.
Oh,
So
well,
they're
probably.
fully charged.
Okay, take them off.
why? I mean, I
Well,
don't understand that.
may I interject?
Yeah,
Yeah, so Allegra, there's basically three or four things you need to know about operating the handheld.
Okay,
One is how to turn it on,
I got that,
and that control is also the volume control
right,
for audio. Number two is how to change the channel,
right,
and number three is how to make sure that the privacy code for that channel is set to 0
off, yeah.
unless for some unforeseen circumstance we need to check, set it to another privacy code. But we operate with privacy codes 0.
Yeah.
And then I think, if the radio is capable of detecting the battery's full, it's not going to accept any additional current, and so is not going to fry your batteries.
No, it's usually not. It's just recommended not to.
Yeah. But it's basically three things to know. Power it
okay,
on, set
Right.
the channel, and make sure that the privacy code is 0.
Yeah,
okay,
And you'd be good to go with those.
that's pretty good.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, and I've got that. So now if I wanted to talk, I don't know what button to push.
Oh,
Okay. That's a good one.
Fourth thing.
that's a very good question. Yes, that's pretty key.
Okay,
So this is your antenna. The long one's your antenna. You've got your
Right.
knob, turn on,
Right. Yep.
and then the it's called a PTT. It's the button, the flat button on the side. It's on this. It's on the if it's your back. If it's facing you, it's on the left hand side, and it's
oh,
got
speaker, speak and mic, okay,
nope. That's the other
Nope.
side.
that's the other side.
It's on the. It's
Okay,
on your left
PTT, okay,
PTT. That stands for push to talk.
PTT,
That's
Okay.
push to talk, and
and you have to hold it down.
you
okay.
hold it. You have yep. Once you let go, you're talking into a void. Nobody hears you. So you want to hold it you want to push it, bring it
Yep.
up to your mouth, and then net control. This is Mariana, zone 5.
Okay,
Yep.
And you keep the button pushed for the whole time that you
All
talk.
the time you talk, keep the button pushed.
okay, great, okay,
And you'll actually see now, if you look, if you have it turned on and
I do,
you push that button, it'll have a little TX up
got
in
it,
the
okay,
right hand corner. That means
I
it's transmitting.
okay, that's great. Good
Yeah.
review, all right, so I guess I have it all set up from when I was at the reservoir.
Yeah.
That's good, all right,
So, yeah,
So-
and we can, let's see, either tomorrow. Yeah, if you're available tomorrow. Do you have my phone number?
okay. Give me your phone number, and I just had something coming through with an RX, I don't know what that was.
RX means receive. That
So
means that
someone's-
there was some noise happening or somebody talking somewhere. And
Okay.
so you were receiving. So RX is receive and TX is
Okay.
transmit.
It's important to listen, to have your volume up and listen first before you try to transmit, so you're not breaking in on somebody else. And there are a lot of kids that use FRS in our neighborhood. And they're usually on like channel 2, but sometimes they get on 6. So
Yeah.
it's
So I will,
we can't keep them off of there.
my
Okay,
number, and if anybody,
I got it,
any of you guys can call me anytime. I'm much better on the phone than I am on an email.
The foster homes on 26 also use it for pickup and deliveries and things like that. So we often hear them transmitting over here in zone 5.
So
I see,
are you ready, Mariana? Do you want to write
I
my
am, yes,
541 912
9,
912
okay,
8169.
okay,
All right.
This has
Correct.
been good for all of us, Mariana. A lot of us are not familiar with FRS. You're muted, Andy.
Andy, go ahead.
Just to throw another wrench into the works here. Also, on the 23rd, and actually when you're practicing using the radio, practice before you transmit. Practice. Hopefully, you got a tactical call sign, and also practice using preference what you're going to send and what and end with exercise. On the 23rd, we want to do that so that if anybody's listening, they don't think it's another war of the worlds coming through, and they're going to think something's crazy going on.
Yeah,
So we want to say exercise, and then we go on and say what we want to say, and then finish with exercise.
yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah, because when sometimes people just listen on the radio, they scan through, and we don't want to start any big.
So thank you very much for all the info.
Oh, sure. Yeah, give me a call.
I'll give you a call tomorrow.
Give me a call tomorrow, and I'll see what my schedule is, and I should be available all day tomorrow if you have time.
On
Let-
yeah, all we yeah,
Good.
sorry. I was say on our Sundays, basically you might just be going in once, maybe twice, with your name and your zone and your nearest intersection. Basically, all we've really been doing the our first two.
We pretty
We
much
sometimes change channel.
Yeah, and we will be changing channels this time. We will be doing we will do the general way we do it is the net control does a roll call of the quarter leaders, so we know who's there. And sometimes we need a backup. Charlie's been awesome. Like sometimes he's been 2 people. Sometimes I've been 2 or 3 people during an exercise. We're flexible, which is
Craig's
why
been Craig
Craig-
good too. Yeah.
Greg usually jumps in somewhere.
Yeah.
So that's why we do the roll call, so we know who's there. And then what ideally want to happen is when we do these exercises, we really want the quarter leaders to be kind of the lead for those zones. And so, because in a real event, there's going to be people on the ground out there giving that information into that quarter leader, because the FRSs don't necessarily go all that far. So the quarter leader is going to be gathering all that information. And so each of the quarters has their own assigned channel. That way we're not interfering. And we've gone through and planned that to where we're not interfering with neighborhoods around us, so that our channels, our alternate channels, aren't going to interfere with the neighborhood next door, because they all have assigned channels as well. And so that way you can talk on that channel, and then the quarter leaders go back and report into the net control. So you will switch, we'll start out on channel 6, and then switch, each quarter switches to their assigned channel, and the quarter leaders will do their roll call. And then when your name's called, and if you get missed, then there's a place at the end where we ask for any missed radio operators or missed stations or guests or visitors or anything like that. And then we meet back on channel 6. And yep, go ahead.
So what is the channel, my channel for zone? I think I'm in zone 5.
And if you look
Or
at
it's number 4 for a south quarter.
if you
That's-
look in
That's
your
our signed one. That's different than all.
if you look in your exercise packet, there's a link that says fan. There's a link that says, well, and actually it's on the exercise overview. If you look at the exercise overview, it pretty much goes like timeline, and it gives the tactical assignments. And so, and the channel. So Northwest is
It's-
channel 2.
I
South,
see. I see.
Southwest is channel 4. So I think you're in Southwest, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm in Southwest Channel 4. I see it.
Or
She'll be announced too, so
That'll
plenty
be
of time to hear it
We-
and ask her and before going over there.
Yeah.
Great
Yeah,
questions.
that's
Okay.
good.
Good.
Oh, this
Well-
is, I hope this has been helpful to kind of just review a little bit. And, you know, it's exciting having I was super excited with the first response guide, and now we've got a whole nother one.
I have another question we haven't addressed yet, and that is Slack or Fan? How is Fan using? We want to try using that more this Sunday because we won't be on it. So
Right, so we have been, initially, we relied more on the Slack channel, and we'll have to talk with Anna and see if she can monitor that too. It's like a text, like a group message type of thing. And so we used that because text messages oftentimes, you know, even if some, you know, are clogged up, sometimes that can be a good backup way to communicate. And so we've been kind of using the Zoom, but the Slack channel, it's a dedicated channel workspace for our radio group. So if for some reason, like, you know, it's like you're just not being heard, you're trying to transmit, and you can write on the Slack channel, it's like, hey, I'm trying to check in, nobody's hearing me, or to leave a message that way. It's kind of a backup communication. And we put announcements on there. We try not to use it, like, to me, emails and Google groups get all messy and full of stuff that I can't ever find. And so we're really, really judicious about what we put on there. We have 3 channels. One's announcements. And so I usually put a link to the exercise packet there, maybe the Zoom link if we have a Zoom, and mainly just announcements. And then there's one for on-air backup, which would be the channel you use during an exercise. And the other one was something.
general discussion. Yeah.
And there's also the option to directly message another person in the group as well. So if you don't want to, if you have something you just want to communicate with like one person, you can do that direct.
So I think there's a link to it maybe, or have it on it in the fax radio frequently asked questions, or a letter that was out initially to people. But I'll go ahead and put something else out before Sunday to remind people that it is there and that we might want to try using it. A lot of radio teams are Zello for their practice, and that's almost a radio app, and it's something. No, it's something that we could easily do anytime. We could that and give it a try. Yeah. Before we close, there was something that Charlie's been asking about. It sounded really good to me. I wanted to throw out there, and it's something you can just maybe think about if we're not there yet. But in order to get more practice, because we don't do very much on the some are really busy on the nets, and some of us are just doing in a couple times, and that's it, once a month. And so we were talking about maybe doing some weekly, what did you, rag fest or rag choose, or?
Well, I think it would be a good idea. It would be nice to be able to do it from home. Like maybe on the like do the exercise once a month, but then if we wanted to have a time that we could do, I don't know how far we can reach with,
it might just be among quarters.
You know, what I would like to see is like have that happen within quarters, because they're within reach of each other. So, and you know, maybe get with the some of the Map Your Neighborhood leaders and get more people to like find a time that works for them to just do a simple check-in once a week. and just to get used to people in your more closely related in your community, their neighborhood area.
We
You
were
know,
thinking of making it pretty informal and just seeing how, if we could do that without having a directed net. I would just get on
Yeah.
at 6 o'clock Wednesday, say, Charlie, are you there? How's it going? Or something.
any of the quarter leaders, anybody who wants to do that, the more practice you have just practicing, turning on the radio and just making it simple and just have a regular time, and I think that would be great. All right, anything else before we close the net, close the Zoom? Thank you guys for participating. It's really helpful, and I think we're making progress, and other neighborhoods are coming along, and the top down's coming along too. It's nice that the EOC is going to be participating in this upcoming October exercise, and it's practice. It's all practice. It'll go however it goes, and there's always opportunities to learn. And so I'm really sorry I'm going to miss it, but I'll be there Sunday. Sunday we'll all get a chance to practice, and and it could be fun too. It's like just even, swapping up on net control, like, getting a rotation of who wants to do which net and swap that up different months. I don't know, maybe a sign up sheet or something might be a good fun thing to do, because once you do it a few times, it gets easier. I know Charlie's got some experience at doing some net control stuff, and Allegra does too, I believe.
Yeah, absolutely. Practice is key.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Good discussion.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah.
Kay.
Thank you.
Sunday.
Yeah,
Lena.
everyone, thanks, Andy. Thank you, Lena. Thanks,
Coming
Thea.
by, Andy. I appreciate it.
Okay, I'll call you tomorrow, Lena.
Okay, no problem.
Okay,
Thank
thanks,
you all. Have
everyone.
a good evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Take care.
night.
Bye-bye.